What is up, my dudes? Cheap Bastard talking to ya, and in today's video I'm going to review this AOC Q3279 Volkswagen FD RX8 monitor the correct way. Because as you may know, a wrong choice can result in this. So I bought this monitor brand new 2 months ago for exactly €200.95, and spoiler alert, it is pretty good.
Let's make a deal, Rumpelstiltskin. She wanna see my purple pickle up in the wind. Okay, Sean, cut that off, bitch, get in. And if your nigga don't like me, hit chinny chin chin. Bitch, I'm hotter than a pepper, no mint. Big stepper, no still, big two. 1K, but my bitch a new cute. New skirt, ice skirt, big drift. New grills, 10K, big list. Diamonds dancing on my face, no disc. Give me lips, rock band like Kiss. Remember days me and X hitting legs?
AOC often does a great job on its packaging, and this sort of a budget monitor for its specs is not an exception. Everything was well packed inside this huge box. Now let's go over a quick specs overview. So it is a flat 32-inch IPS monitor with an IPS panel, 5 millisecond response time, 2560 by 1440 resolution, 75 Hz refresh rate, and 250 nit brightness. Oh, and it also supports AMD FreeSync. AOC also does a great job with the ports, so this monitor has every single port that you will ever need, not including the Shanghai and Rotterdam port. They were too big and too expensive to fit on this monitor, sadly. Design wise, it is really basic, looks very expensive but feels cheap. The stand is very minimalistic, takes up a relatively small amount of space, but it is also one of the biggest illusions of all time.
Welcome back to another episode of the biggest illusions of all time. For today's number 1 we have Santa, number 2 holes and cheese, number 3 this monitor stand material. Thank you for watching.
It may look like brushed aluminum, but no, this is pure plastic. The sturdiness of the stand is okay, I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. The bezels are on the thicker side, making it inconvenient to use in a dual monitor setup. The UI is good, and with this one it has high frame rate transitions, not like the AOC 2460PF, and a healthy amount of options. Although I'm not a big fan of these buttons under the screen, I wish it had a joystick like the CJ-G5. And in order to transition to the most important part of the monitor, I asked this guy for help. And on factory settings, the screen, as usual, was on the yellow side, but adjusting the color settings helped a lot. Brightness, although, is one of the weaker points of this monitor, because I'm using it at max since the day I bought it. The viewing angles are okay. There is some strange color shifting when looking at it from the side, but watching Netflix with your stepsister won't be an issue. Anti-glare screen is better than I expected, either because it is winter and the sun sets early, or because I'm locked inside a basement.
I guess we'll never know.
What about gaming? I hear your neighbor's dog asking. Well, the input lag is not noticeable for me, an MG2 CSGO player, but level 10 Faceit Sweats
Looks like it's paused. Oh, there he goes.
might tell you otherwise. The 75Hz screen makes your little cousin question why Roblox doesn't run better on his PC after downloading 5 extra CPU cores. And 32-inch size leaves every girl in the room wondering if you aren't compensating for anything else. Although it is too big for esports gaming in my opinion. Every time I go for a match with my friends, I push this monitor farther away from me because otherwise I would have some really big blind spots, and not having 144Hz makes it even harder to recommend for esports players. However, AAA gamers are in for a treat. Color beautifulness is a solid 7 out of 10, and its large diameter makes any storytelling game immersive, no matter how bad is it. And what really surprised me was the lack of ghosting. It is super minimal, feels like a between Philips 275E and it is not far off from the 2460PF. Now let's go over the pros and cons quickly. As for the cons, there aren't too many of them. Fat bezels on the sides and mediocre material quality were my only complaints, and the pros being great price to performance, a nice variety of easily accessible ports, a convenient stand, and almost no ghosting. To conclude, I really like this monitor and I would recommend it to my colleague. If I missed something, feel free to ask me anything in the comments, and subscribe to interview a random politician. And don't forget to stay cheap, my dudes. Cheap bastard out.
Fuck you! Is that all?